There are moments in life that test everything you believe about yourself, moments when your training means nothing, and all you have left is your humanity. I'm about to share with you the most challenging case of my entire career, a case that involved a decorated Marine sniper, a secret so devastating it nearly destroyed him, and a discovery that would haunt me forever. This is my story, and I need you to hear every word of it. My name is Laura Brennan, and I've been an emergency room nurse for 12 years. I work at Providence Memorial Hospital in San Antonio, Texas, just miles away from Joint Base San Antonio. My life has always revolved around two things: my 8-year-old daughter Mia, who I'm raising on my own after my divorce 3 years ago, and my work at the ER, where I've seen things that would make most people quit on their first day. San Antonio in July is unforgiving. The heat radiates off the pavement in waves, and by the time my shift started that Thursday evening, the temperature was still hovering around 98 degrees. I remember walking into the hospital, the blast of air conditioning hitting my face, and thinking it would be just another night. Gunshot wounds, car accidents, the usual chaos that comes with working near a military base. I was wrong, so terribly wrong. Around 9:30 that night, the ambulance bay doors burst open. 2 paramedics rushed in with a gurney, and on it was a man in his early 30s, muscular build, covered in sweat and blood. But what struck me immediately wasn't his injuries. It was his eyes, wild, unfocused, filled with something I'd seen before in combat veterans, but never this intense, pure, unfiltered terror. If this story has already grabbed you, subscribe to the channel now, because what comes next will surprise you even more. And please comment below and tell me where you're watching this from. I want to know how far this story reaches. The moment the gurney entered the trauma bay, he started screaming. Not screaming in pain, but screaming orders. Military orders. Stay back. Do not approach. I repeat, do not approach. His voice was hoarse, desperate, commanding. That's an order. Nobody touches me. Nobody. Dr. Richardson, our attending physician, tried to approach him calmly. Sir, we're here to help you. You're in a hospital. You're safe. Safe? The Marine's laugh was bitter, almost manic. You don't understand. You can't touch me. If you touch me, it happens again. It always happens again. His name was Staff Sergeant Derek Holland, according to his military ID. The paramedics had found him collapsed outside a veterans support group meeting. He had lacerations on his arms, bruising on his face, but nothing that explained this level of distress. No visible life-threatening injuries, but he wouldn't let anyone near him. Every time someone took a step closer, he would tense up, his whole body going rigid, his hands gripping the sides of the gurney so hard his knuckles turned white. 3 nurses had already tried. 2 security guards were standing by, unsure what to do. I watched from the doorway, analyzing. This wasn't just PTSD. This was something deeper, something specific. He wasn't afraid of being hurt. He was afraid of hurting us. Thank you for staying with me this far. It shows you feel what I felt when I lived through all of this. So subscribe now and hit that bell, because what comes next changes everything. For 20 minutes, we were at a standstill. Derek remained on the gurney, bleeding from several cuts that needed immediate attention, but refusing all treatment. Dr. Richardson was growing frustrated. The other nurses were exchanging worried glances. Someone suggested sedation, but I knew that would be a mistake. This man needed control, not to have it taken away from him. I made a decision. I walked to the supply closet, grabbed a chair, and carried it to the trauma bay. Everyone watched me, confused, as I placed the chair about 6 feet away from Derek's gurney and sat down. "What are you doing, Brennan?" Dr. Richardson whispered. "Respecting his space," I replied quietly. I looked at Derek, making sure my body language was completely non-threatening. "Staff Sergeant Holland, my name is Laura. I'm not going to touch you. I'm not going to come any closer, but I need you to talk to me. Can you do that?" His breathing was rapid, shallow, but he looked at me, really looked at me for the first time. "You're a nurse," he said, his voice cracking. "Yes, I am. Nurses are good people. They help people." He said it like he was reminding himself of a basic fact, something he'd forgotten. "That's right, and I want to help you, but I need to understand what's happening first. Why can't we touch you?" His eyes filled with tears. "Because the last time someone trusted me, the last time someone let me get close, I failed. I failed so badly that an innocent person died because of me. Now I want to hear from you. Where are you watching this story from? Write it in the comments below. And if you're feeling this story like I am, hit that subscribe button. It's incredible to see people from so many places following stories like this. The trauma bay had gone completely silent. Everyone was listening now. Even the other patients in nearby beds had quieted down. Derek Holland sat on that gurney, tears streaming down his face, and I knew we were about to hear something he'd never told anyone before. "I was a sniper," he began, his voice barely above a whisper. "3rd deployment. Afghanistan, 2 years ago. My spotter and I were positioned on a rooftop in Kandahar, providing overwatch for a patrol moving through the market below. He paused, his hands trembling. I didn't move, didn't speak. I just listened. There was a kid, maybe 9, 10 years old. He was playing in the street, kicking a soccer ball. I had him in my scope for half a second as I was scanning the area. Just a kid, happy, innocent, playing. Derek's breathing became more labored. Then everything happened at once. My spotter called out a target. Adult male, east side of the market, reaching into his jacket, possible suicide vest. I had 3 seconds to make the decision. 3 seconds. I could see where this was going, and my heart was breaking. I took the shot. Center mass. Perfect execution. The target went down immediately. He closed his eyes, and a sob escaped his throat. But the kid, he'd run after his ball, right into my line of fire at the last possible second. I didn't see him until it was too late. The bullet, it went through the target and struck the child. The room felt like all the oxygen had been sucked out of it. He didn't die immediately, Derek continued, and I could hear the anguish in every word. The patrol got to him within minutes. There was a medic, a young guy, maybe 23 years old. He worked on that kid for 18 minutes. 18 minutes of trying to save him while I watched through my scope from the rooftop. Dr. Richardson had taken a seat now too. This wasn't about medicine anymore. This was about a human soul in agony. The medic, his name was Corporal James Martinez. He kept working even when it was clear there was no hope. He held that boy's hand when he died. He held his hand and cried. Derek's voice broke completely, and I couldn't do anything. I was 600 meters away with a rifle, and I couldn't do a single thing to fix what I'd done. That wasn't your fault, I said softly. You were following protocol. You were protecting your unit. I know that, he shouted suddenly, making everyone jump. I know the rules of engagement. I know I followed procedure. I know the investigation cleared me. I know all of that. He was gasping now, hyperventilating. But it doesn't change what happened. It doesn't bring him back. I stood up slowly, telegraphing every movement. Derek, what does this have to do with not letting us touch you? He looked at me with such profound sadness that I felt it in my bones, because 2 months later, Corporal Martinez died. He was the medic who tried to save that boy, and he died because of me. The revelation hung in the air like a physical presence. I took one careful step closer, still maintaining distance, but showing him I wasn't afraid. How did Corporal Martinez die, Derek? He was treating wounded civilians after an IED attack. He was doing his job, saving lives, being the hero he always was, and a secondary device went off, killed him instantly along with 2 of the people he was trying to help. I frowned, confused. Derek, that wasn't because of you. That was a separate incident. No, his voice was sharp, adamant. You don't understand. After that day with the boy, Martinez changed. Everyone said so. He became obsessed with saving every civilian, taking risks he never took before. He stopped following safety protocols. He'd run into dangerous situations without proper clearance because he couldn't stand the thought of losing another innocent person. Derek's hands were shaking violently now. He died because he was trying to make up for the boy I killed. He died because I put that weight on him. And 3 weeks ago, I found out something that made it all so much worse. I felt my pulse quicken. What did you find out? Martinez had a daughter. She's 7 years old now. Her name is Sophia, and 3 weeks ago I met her. His voice dropped to barely a whisper. I went to visit his widow to apologize, to explain. And when Sophia opened the door, I saw her face. He looked directly at me, and I saw the horror in his eyes. She looks exactly like the boy I killed. The same age he would have been if he'd lived. The same smile. And I realized that Martinez's daughter was growing up without a father because I pulled that trigger. Everything suddenly made terrible, devastating sense. Derek wasn't experiencing typical PTSD. He was trapped in a cycle of guilt and causation that had consumed him completely. The boy in Afghanistan, the medic who died trying to compensate, and now the daughter who would never know her father. In his mind, it all traced back to that single decision, that one shot. Derek, I said, taking another small step forward. You're connecting things that aren't connected. Martinez made his own choices. He chose to be a medic. He chose to help people. His death was a tragedy, but it wasn't caused by you. Then why can't I feel anything when people touch me? He asked, his voice breaking. Why does my skin crawl? Why do I feel like I'm contaminated? Like I'll hurt everyone I come in contact with? This was it. This was the real wound. Not the cuts on his arms or the bruises on his face. This was the injury that was killing him slowly from the inside. Because you've convinced yourself that you're dangerous, I said gently, that your very presence causes harm, so you've isolated yourself completely. When was the last time someone hugged you, Derek? When was the last time you had any human contact that wasn't combat-related or medical? He thought about it for a long moment. 2 years. Almost exactly 2 years. Right before that mission. 2 years without human touch. 2 years of self-imposed isolation because he believed he was toxic, harmful, dangerous. No wonder he was falling apart. I made a decision that could have cost me my job. I looked at Dr. Richardson and said, "Give me 10 minutes alone with him." Dr. Richardson started to protest, but I gave him a look that said I knew what I was doing. Reluctantly, he cleared the trauma bay. hallway. Just Derek and me remained, separated by about 4 feet of space. Derek, I'm going to tell you something about myself that I don't share with many people, I began. 3 years ago, my husband left me and our daughter. He just walked out one day and never came back. No explanation, no goodbye to Mia. Nothing. Derek's expression softened slightly, curiosity breaking through the anguish. For months afterward, I blamed myself. I thought I must have been a terrible wife. I must have done something wrong. I tortured myself trying to figure out what I could have done differently. And do you know what happened? He shook his head. I started pulling away from Mia, my own daughter, because I was so convinced I was broken, so sure I would somehow damage her too, that I created distance between us. She was 5 years old and asking me why mommy didn't want to hug her anymore. Tears were running down my face now. It took a therapist 6 sessions to make me understand something crucial. We cannot control everything. We cannot predict every outcome. And we cannot take responsibility for the choices other people make, even when those choices are influenced by events we were part of. But I pulled the trigger, Derek insisted, and Martinez chose to become a medic, and the insurgents chose to plant that IED, and the boy chose to run after his ball, and I'm choosing right now to try to help you. Do you want to know what really happened 3 weeks ago? Derek asked suddenly. When I met Sophia, I nodded. She hugged me. This 7-year-old girl, who I expected would hate me, who I thought I'd have to confess everything to. She just hugged me. Her mother had told her I was one of her daddy's friends from the military, and she hugged me and said, "Thank you for being my daddy's friend." His whole body was shaking now, and I couldn't feel it. I couldn't feel her little arms around me. I couldn't feel anything except panic and guilt. And when I pulled away, she looked hurt, confused, like she'd done something wrong, and I realized I'm still hurting innocent children. Even now, even trying to do the right thing, I'm causing harm. This was the moment, the crucial turning point. I stood up from my chair and took 3 steps forward, closing the distance between us until I was right beside the gurney. Derek, I'm going to touch your hand now, just your hand, and I need you to try, really try, to feel it. Can you do that? He looked terrified, but he nodded slowly. I reached out and placed my hand on top of his. His hand was cold, clammy, trembling. I kept mine there, steady and warm. What do you feel? I asked. I don't know. I can't. He stopped, concentrating. Wait, I feel pressure. I feel warmth. That's right. You feel it because you're alive, Derek. You're alive and you're human, and you have the capacity to connect with people. You haven't lost that. You've just buried it under so much guilt that you forgot it was there. For the first time in 2 years, Derek Holland didn't pull away from human touch. The treatment that followed was almost anticlimactic. Derek allowed us to clean and bandage his wounds. He accepted a psychiatric evaluation. He agreed to be admitted to the hospital's mental health unit for intensive therapy. But the real healing had already begun in that trauma bay when he let me hold his hand. I visited him 3 times during his 2-week stay. He told me more about his life, about Martinez, about the boy in Afghanistan. We cried together. We laughed together when he shared funny stories about his unit, and slowly, painfully, he started to forgive himself. On the day of his discharge, he asked me to contact Sophia's mother. Together, we arranged for him to visit them again. This time, when Sophia hugged him, he hugged her back. He felt it, all of it. The warmth, the trust, the innocent affection of a child who saw him as a friend, not a monster. Derek still struggles. He probably always will. PTSD doesn't just disappear, but he's in therapy now, working with other veterans, learning to process his trauma in healthy ways. And he can feel human touch again. That connection, that basic human need, has been restored. As for me, that night changed how I approach every patient. I learned that sometimes the deepest wounds are invisible. Sometimes healing requires nothing more than patience, space, and the willingness to truly listen. So I want to ask you something. Have you ever faced an impossible decision? Have you ever carried guilt for something beyond your control? How would you handle the weight of a secret like Derek's? Write your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. If this story moved you, if it made you think or feel something real, please subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. We share true stories from healthcare professionals, stories that remind us of our shared humanity. And watch the next recommended video, because these stories, these real experiences, they matter. They connect us all. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here.